Cam 81 heavy. You're not even listening, sir. You're talking and I'm still talking. Turn left on Gulf. Turn left on Runway 4 left, hold short, Foxtrot.
Some of you may remember one of the very first air traffic control videos I ever did was Air China Lost in JFK. This audio is very similar. We're going to just see who got more lost.
Cam 81 80 heavy. What's your gate? Are you cleared in?
Spectrum on that bridge at 8180 heavy.
Okay. Are you cleared in?
Are you cleared?
Okay. Well, then left Gulf, left turn on 4 left, hold short, Fox.
Via Golf, it's under right. Left is 8180.
JetBlue 411, County ground, runway 3 left, taxi right, Alpha, hold short, Juliet.
Okay, turn left in Golf, right now. 8180 heavy.
Cam 81, that's not for you, sir. JetBlue 411, taxi Alpha, hold short, Juliet.
Okay, we're going to 31 left, Alpha, hold short, Juliet, JetBlue 411.
Cam 8180 heavy, are you cleared in?
Got you.
Okay, as instructed, turn left Gulf, turn left 4 left, hold short, Foxtrot.
One of the first things you need to understand about JFK is that whoever designed it, in my opinion, designed it kind of poorly. Because a lot of the ways, the taxiways that pilots have to take in order to get you to your gate are one plane can only fit in there at a time, which means before you start going down that alleyway, you have to call and get clearance to get into that alleyway. The ramp controller then is going to look down this alleyway here and see if there's any traffic that's pushing and they're starting their engines, or is somebody that's going to be pushing back shortly so there isn't a traffic jam. So what happens then as the pilots are landing, and I did this on one of my very first flights as an airline pilot, the captain told me, hey, this is going to get kind of complicated, and here's my system. We're going to land, and as soon as we get off the runway, I will monitor the main ground frequency. Then you're going to call ramp frequency on this frequency. You're going to find out if we're cleared into park or not. I'll take care of the radio number 1, you take care of radio number 2, and give me that information. Then once that's done, you'll come back to radio number 1, and you'll take over ground frequency, because all we need to know is if we can get in or not. Now, that was his experience. He'd been to JFK a lot. It was my first time ever being there. So I said, okay, great. That's what we'll do. And that's what we did. We landed. I called ramp. I verified if we were cleared into the gate. We were, came back under radio 1, took over the radios on the number 1 frequency. And it was like, okay, great. And that was because he'd been there before. So he understood what was going to happen. So the ground controllers in JFK will typically ask you this question.
Okay. Are you cleared in?
Now, if you haven't been to JFK before, there will be notes, and they will be in your company published paperwork, basically, that will explain to you exactly how this airport works, because every airport is different. And in JFK, it will be explained somewhere that this is how it works here in JFK. You need to get clearance into the ramp. But if you don't read that, it's not a common thing that you'll see at a lot of airports. Typically, what will happen is you'll be speaking to tower control as you come in and land. They'll hand you off to the ground controller. They'll give you the frequency. That ground controller will start moving you around the airport as you get close to the ramp frequency. They will hand you over to the ramp frequency, and the ramp frequency will handle you from there going in. That's typically how it works. That is not how it works in JFK. You got to get that clearance, come back to the first guy, tell the ground controller, hey, we're good in to go into park. The next thing that's kind of strange about this clearance is when the controller says this.
Okay, well, then left Gulf, left turn on 4 left, hold short, Fox.
Now, my opinion as a pilot is that I don't want to be on a runway unless I'm taking off or landing for any more extra time than I need to. Something I got taught by some of the old veteran pilots when I became a new airline pilot, or I think I was even flying corporate at that time, is one of the guys said, you never want to get onto a runway unless you're just getting ready to take off or land. And the reason is because you can have a situation where a pilot maybe thinks he's landing on 4 right, but he's actually landed on 4 left, and then he lands, and at night they may not see you. There's a bunch of different scenarios. You don't want to be on the runway any longer than you have to. So if someone gave me that clearance of lining up and holding on 4 left short of Foxtrot, if nothing else, I would at least query and say, hey, is there somewhere else we can go, or can we exit and hold short on Foxtrot, short of Bravo, or what something? I wouldn't want to be just sitting there indefinitely on a runway. I wouldn't want to do that. So that's a clearance that if I got given, I wouldn't want to do it. And based off of the LATAM pilot stepping on top of JetBlue here, I think these pilots are having a hard time grasping everything that's going on. And you're about to see why having a good understanding of English is really important if you start flying international.
Okay, as instructed, turn left Golf, turn left 4 left, hold short Foxtrot.
Okay, via taxi, Wolfie and the left Bravo, turning 18.
No, that's not what I said. Turn left Golf, turn left on runway 4 left, hold short Foxtrot, TAM 8180.
Left now via Bravo, and hold short Wolfie, turning 18.
TAM 8180. You're not even listening, sir. You're talking and I'm still talking. Turn left on Golf, turn left on runway 4 left, hold short Foxtrot.
Wolfie and the hold short Foxtrot, turning 18.
TAM 8180. Turn left on runway 4 left, hold short Foxtrot.
Hold short Foxtrot, taxi, turning 180 heavy.
TAM 8180. I told you enter 4 left while you're on Bravo.
Now, this controller, in my opinion, is doing everything that he can to get these pilots to go where he wants them to go. But like I said earlier, as a pilot, I wouldn't want to be on the runway unless I'm taking off or landing. I would want to be taxiing and waiting there short of a taxiway. So instead, these pilots, I guess, are just making the determination that they don't want to do that either, and they're just going to taxi down this other taxiway. A couple days ago, I was leaving Lima, and when I was leaving, the controller had a very heavy accent. And he gave us a new departure that he wanted us to do out of the airport. They switched the runways, they did all kinds of things. And in doing so, they gave us this new departure. 3 of the 4 pilots, me being the 4th, heard one of these departures is the one that we're going to go do. I wasn't 100% sure that that was the right one. So I asked the guy who was running the radios on the flight deck, call them and give them the departure that we think we're supposed to be doing and make him say affirmative or negative. I just wanted him to do that. So that's what he did. He called and said, confirm flying this departure. And the controller said, affirmative. Great, that's all I wanted. And that was the right thing. If anyone ever has a doubt, the best thing to do is just set the brake and then make that call, find out and confirm that that's the right thing. You don't want to be moving around if not everybody's on the same page. If everybody's on the same page, that they were to not turn on to 4 left, but they were to turn on to a different taxiway, okay, great, now everybody's there. But my guess is that someone up there wasn't 100% sure whether they spoke up or not. Obviously, we don't know. But something that's important is listen here to the readback that the pilots gave about holding short.
Left now via Bravo, and hold short Wolfie, turning 18.
Even though the controller said multiple times to go on to 4 left, the pilot is not reading that back. The pilot has, for whatever reason, deleted that or didn't write it down or didn't believe it or whatever it is. They didn't read it back. And the controller, even though he keeps emphasizing to go on to 4 left, the pilot's not reading him back. So what the controller could have done is said, set your brake, listen to what I'm saying, and said it again very slowly, even though, in my opinion, this controller is saying it at a very normal speed compared to what they might be doing if they were talking to all American or English-speaking people. He's speaking very clear, in my opinion. I've heard a lot more condensed, faster phraseology than what this controller is doing. So I think he's doing a really good job. But this guy's not hearing 4 left. All the controller is wanting him to do is go onto this runway and hold right here. But instead, they start to turn here onto Bravo, and then the controller starts to get a little bit irritated when he says this right here.
TAM 8180. I told you enter 4 left while you're on Bravo.
Unfortunately, this is 100% on the pilots, and I don't think it's an intentional error. I think it's really just a grasp of English. You have at least 2 pilots, probably more, that are up there. It sounds like they're coming into park. They may have flown all night. They could be tired. I have done that. I have been on the flight deck, and we've had delays and what have you. You've seen some of my videos where we're flying for or moving for 20 hours. You're not at your peak of your mental thinking capacity after that. So you really have to rely on your experience of what's going on and going into thinking, is this exactly what's being said here? And obviously, for whatever reason, they're making this decision to turn, and there should be someone up there that's thinking, no, he's saying 4 left. Either go on to 4 left or hold short of 4 left. There's something about 4 left that's being said here. They should be able to pick that up. And then the controller starts to give a progressive taxi right here.
TAM 8180, turn left on runway 4 left. Hold short Foxtrot.
A progressive taxi is something that you will sometimes ask for when you're flying by yourself. If you're going to an airport you aren't familiar with and you weren't smart enough to look at the taxi charts before you landed there, you can ask for a progressive. And that basically is asking the controller to give you a turn-by-turn directions as you're moving around the airport. In a very busy airport, let's say Chicago, they're not going to do it. But let's say you land at a small regional airport and there's only 2 or 3 planes that are moving around, the controller may give you a progressive taxi. Hey, up on the next one, turn left. Go 2 taxiways up and turn right. That's going to be a hotel. They might give you that turn-by-turn directions, and that's essentially what this controller is doing. When he turned onto that first taxiway, he then said, go up the 4 left, but the guy said, no, we're turning here on Bravo. The controller's really doing everything that he can to get these guys to go where he wants them to go, but they are not listening and they're lost. So check out what happens next.
Ground Runway 180 Heavy, unable jet bridge at the present moment.
TAM 8180 Heavy, I have no idea what you're saying, sir. Hold short of Foxtrot.
Foxtrot, Runway 180 Heavy.
TAM 8180 Heavy, contact the ramp.
I contact the ramp, Runway 180.
I think he's saying that the jet bridge isn't available for him.
What are you saying? Okay, I don't understand. Okay, thank you.
So these regional pilots are jumping in there and they're trying to help out LATAM and tell the controller, hey, this is what I think he's saying. The reason the controller isn't understanding is, why is the guy talking about a jet bridge? He doesn't care about that. He wants to know, are you cleared into the alleyway or not? That's all that he's really concerned about. Why he is or is not cleared in, he does not care. He just wants to know, are you cleared into that alleyway? These regional pilots are jumping in saying, hey, I think he's talking about the jet bridge. But the controller he's not hearing that because he's not expecting someone to be talking to him about a jet bridge. He's just trying to find out if they're cleared into the alleyway or not. Just trying to set the scene here of this next part that's about to go on.
TAM 8180.
The ramp is confirming the hotel is open, but not confirming the jet bridge.
TAM 8180 Heavy, are you cleared into the ramp?
I will clear to the ramp, Runway 180.
The question, are you cleared in?
Negative, sir. Negative.
Okay, then you can't go to the ramp then.
I will go to the ramp too, but they confirm just the tax-free hotel is open. That's it.
Yes, I need to know though, when you get there, are you cleared in? There's aircraft blocked on the alley. I want to know if your ramp and all that's open. Otherwise, I can't take you there.
Breakout 5627, we're listening. The ramp clears TAM by hotel into the ramp.
TAM 8180 Heavy, turn left, Fox, taxi left Alpha.
Okay, Foxtrot via Delta, Runway 180.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the controversial thing that I'm about to tell you, and that is these pilots who sound Brazilian based off of the accent and based off of the call sign, they don't have the level of English that is going to be necessary for them to work in international operations. He is speaking English. He probably is a great pilot, but he is not able to comprehend everything that's going on here. Now, I will give them that JFK is poorly designed. There should be a controller that is there like every other airport, that you have ramp control sitting next to ground control, and that ground controller can ask the ramp controller right next to him, hey, can we bring these guys in on a hotel? That's how it should be, but that's not how it is. And no one has asked me for my opinions on designing airports, because there's probably a reason they don't do that, but no one has asked me what I think, but it should be that way, but it's not. And they're having a hard time comprehending everything. Unfortunately, taxiing, in my opinion, a lot of times it's harder than flying. Flying the plane is easy, and when you get given very concise instructions from one person, you're not having to do multiple radios generally, unless you're flying in a few sections of the world where you're crossing a bunch of international boundaries at the same time. But that's another story. But taxiing typically can be more stressful than flying itself, because you're given very the same types of instructions again and again. So even if your language or your understanding English isn't great, you're still able to understand, hey, this is what they're saying, and you're able to comply with it. Something that most pilots do before every flight is they talk about a risk and a mitigation, meaning we will talk about there is a risk here. For example, right now I'm in Santiago, Chile. There is a lot of high mountains. So tomorrow when we fly out, what will happen is, if I were to be flying, I would say, okay, this is a risk, high mountains. We're going to mitigate it by this. For example, on the departure, when we leave out, even if we're given a shortcut by the controller, we're not going to take it, because if they don't realize how heavy we are or what we weigh, they may give us a shortcut that would put us at risk of hitting a mountain. Typically it doesn't happen, but that would be a risk in how we mitigate it. So in this situation here, you would typically have the pilots have a risk. Hey, our understanding of English isn't that great, and this is how we're going to mitigate it. I do the say the thing that you're asking me to do and have the controller confirm it when it's the other way around. When I'm here, if I don't understand the controller, I say, confirm this departure, and have them say affirmative or negative. So these pilots could have said, confirm you want this, you want us to go here and hold short Foxtrot on Bravo, and the controller would have said negative, 4 left. And at that point, set the brake and then say it again and again, even if it's 5 times, even if the controller gets irritated, that doesn't matter. It's better to irritate the controller and do the right thing than just think that they want this and then do the wrong thing. I have done both. I have assumed that they wanted me to do this thing, and that was not the thing, and I took a small situation and possibly made it worse. It didn't end up being worse, but it could have been worse. So it's just better. If you don't know, confirm it. This right here is a chart coming out of Santiago, Chile. So you can see hitting a mountain here would be a high risk. And that is why we brief something like that. When I'm dealing with issues where language is a barrier, for example, China, some controllers in Asia do a really great job speaking English. Japan comes to mind. They do a great job speaking English because they'll speak in English even to the Japanese pilots. And China, not so much. They have a very limited knowledge of or control of the English language, but they're able to say let's say 50 words very clear. But if you start saying anything outside those 50 words, they're totally lost. So this was where it gets important as a pilot, if you're flying international or English isn't your first language, to at least master the key words that you're going to be using again and again. So that way, if you don't understand what's going on, you can do the reverse version like I'm saying. Confirm this taxi instruction, Alpha Bravo short Charlie. Just even if you're not very good in English, you'd be able to say that, and then you can hear the controller say affirmative or negative. That's the easiest way, in my opinion. That's what I use when I go other places because they're speaking my native language. So I set it up so that way they can say one of those two. It's a yes or no. If the pilots had done this with the controller and said, this is what we think you're saying, this, and this, the controller would have said negative and then would have said 4 left again. But they didn't do that. Luckily for these LATAM pilots, there was another set of regional pilots that were there that were willing to go listen in on the frequency and find out what was the instruction that they were given from the ramp frequency.
Breakout 5627, we're listening. The ramp clear LATAM by hotel into the ramp.
Now again, I think JFK should be redesigned. That's my opinion. If you're a controller in JFK, maybe you could tell me why they don't change it, because it is super complex when you're moving in my case, a few 100,000-pound aircraft and we're having to listen to multiple frequencies after a long day. I don't think it's a great design, but I don't know. No one's really asked my opinion on it. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.